How would you like to make your first million?
Cool.
And today we have John Magnor with us, which is from Magnor Equity Partners. And he's originally from Wisconsin, but today he's broadcasting from Argentina. Yes, so he does travel a lot. And we would like to know, John, your formula. What are the 5 steps that you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Great question. So number one would be just figuring out exactly what problem that you want to solve. You can't really have a business without solving problems and actually providing a solution. Step number two would be having a dialed in audience. So you got to choose a very, very specific niche to actually position as an expert and then be able to solve that problem for that audience. A lot of people want to go general when in reality, when you're first starting off, you really got to dial into a very, very specific niche. For example, I work with a lot of B2B companies. So some people may say, oh, well, we work with residential roofing business owners doing 1 million to 5 million annually. So that's a very, very niche. Number three would then be to craft a dialed in offer. So you want to sell one clear thing extremely well instead of trying to be just a one-stop shop at the beginning. Like the offer, like the audience, everyone wants to be a general practitioner and they think that's going to get the most results because you can sell to everyone. But in reality, you're going to get the best results for fulfillment if you sell one clear thing, and you come off more as an expert if you do that. Number four is then to dial in your marketing. So biggest thing is you want messaging that actually speaks directly to the buyer's psychology. A lot of people think that, they want to use these big technical jargons, but if your audience doesn't understand it, it's not going to perform well. So dialed in marketing, but it has to speak directly to your buyer. Then lastly, you want marketing, sales, and a dialed in sales process. So you want both marketing and sales to be aligned. You want both the sales team to understand what's going on in the marketing, and then you want the marketing team to understand how sales is going about closing deals. And then you want obviously a dialed in sales process, which means, fast lead follow-up, strong automations that ensure that people are going to show up. And then lastly, systems that actually maximize conversions.
So tell us about your business, what your business is about, and what has been your biggest challenge in that business and how you overcome that challenge.
Mhm. Yeah. So my business currently, what we do is we partner up with B2B companies. Typically, we're partnering up with software companies. Maybe these guys have, a really, really product. They're more of a technical founder, but they just don't know how to scale it. Whether that's they don't know how to market themselves or they don't know how to generate leads or actually close these deals. And what I do is I actually partner up with these companies either through consulting or we do equity plays to where I'm able to bring my expertise in the marketing and sales world, build out their system for them, and essentially build out that whole side of their business while they can focus on building out a good product or building out great fulfillment. And then your second question was about the biggest challenge. So biggest challenge, I would take this a little farther back. So when I first got into, just building sales teams and things like this back when I was in early, so I was about 18, 19 years old. I actually built a virtual solar sales team. So this was kind of in the gold rush when, solar was awesome. But if you know anything about solar sales, you don't get paid out as a solar sales rep until the deal gets installed. And what was happening a lot of times was, so I closed a bunch of deals, but a lot of these companies, because people were defaulting on their loans, the companies went bankrupt. So what happened was I put over 20 deals in with this one company. I'm not going to name them, but they went bankrupt. So I was owed over, I'd say $150,000 of commissions at 18 and 19.
Wow.
Yeah. So
How do you learn
that was
about this
very, very tough.
experience?
What was that?
What do you learn about this experience?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm honestly glad it happened, because most people, when they're 18 or 19 years old, they're not going to learn, something like that in college, just going through the traditional education. So while it was tough, I mean, I could have used that money. I think any 18-year-old could have used that type of money. It taught me a lot. Number one, just about rebuilding, because while solar was a big, identity for me, because I was able to build hard skills like marketing and sales, I eventually realized, okay, this is not going to be something that's going to work out long term in the solar space. And then I took it to working with B2B companies and scaling that up. So really what it made me learn was that if you have hard skills, no matter what happens, if your business collapses, you're never really starting over, because you're always going to have those hard skills, and you have the lesson that is honestly most times just way more important.
So what do you think about, especially in the tech space? Okay, we by the way, 1 out of 5 millionaires that we interview in this podcast, they are
Mm-hmm.
tech entrepreneurs. Okay, and the other one are property investors. Okay, but what we see in the tech space a lot is that those founders, okay, that they are software developers, they are very tech orientated. Okay, they develop a product, could be an app, could be an application, could be software, and they assume that all they have is they have a great product, okay, and it's gonna change the world, and it's gonna sell by itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what the reality is that if you listen to this podcast, you will find out that most of the tech millionaires that that have been interviewed here, most of them are not even tech. They are sales and marketing experts. Okay. And
Yep.
this is the main background. And they don't know how to write software. However, they have a different skill set. They know how to get in front of people. They know how to listen to the client. They know what the client wants and what they are willing to pay. And after they have all the information, they have a clear route to market that they know how to sell. They go back and they develop a product. They pay the tech team to develop it. And these are the voila, success story that we see about tech out there. And sometimes a little bit realistic when we see the tech entrepreneurs that they're not taking sales and marketing seriously, especially in the topic that we talking about this podcast today, which is 0 to 1, how to get to product market fit. How I would say, in my opinion, okay, that the product, especially when you're on the 0 to 1, the product is like 20%. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have put 80% of your resources in marketing and sales and route to market and get your product, minimum viable product from people, it will be those first clients that would actually reshape your product and will tell you what the market really wants, how much they're willing to pay for. So, John, why do we see again and again, because I'm very close to the space, a lot of great products out there in the tech space and in traditional business also that never see the light because entrepreneurs don't understand this concept and don't take sales and marketing seriously.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, building a great product is awesome. And, you really need all cylinders when you're growing and scaling a large business. But one of the big things that I see, like you were saying before, is a lot of these guys know how to build great products. But if you can't go out and actually convert that into sales, then you don't have a business. So a big thing is that I like to say is like, hey, you know, you can have the greatest product, but if you don't have great distribution, then it's nothing. A lot of times there's companies that have almost, really, really just mediocre products, but they have great distribution, and that's why people know them.
Yeah.
Um,
Look, goes worse, John. We see in the in entrepreneurs, you see, they develop the product, they ask for money from friend and family to develop the great product, they remortgage the house, they ask to the friends, and after the product is big, that the big this big elephant doesn't know the marketplace wanted or not, uh, then they go to a VC and say, look, we want your money, because we want to sell it. And the VC is telling, how you never sold any? How do you how I'm gonna give you my money if you don't know how to sell? You I said, no, but give me some funding and we sell it. But the dynamic doesn't really work like this. No VC, no any funding company in the right mind will with a founder that hasn't sold anything money to go and sell, because clearly the founder don't understand the business dynamic. Business doesn't really work like that. And we see in first time founders, okay, they are a product person. They are a big fan of the product. They put a lot of time, money, and energy in the product. However, I've seen that second time founders, they have a different approach. They are really educated in sales and marketing. They know that this is the priority, and they put a lot of time, money, effort, and energy in sales and marketing, getting the product in front of people. And these first time founder that they are in love with the product, second time founder already know that the product is something that we can fix and will be fixed along the way. Out of the 500 million that I interview, no one had told me yet, Harry, you know what? I invented this product and it was so good that exactly how I designed it, I start to sell it like that. I haven't found anybody yet to tell me that story. You see? So so it really worked like this. So why do you think, John, that if we see this structure that actually is working, then we have so many companies out there, because only a small percentage of the tech companies or the companies out there succeed. The rest, 98%, okay, only 2% are succeeding. Then next 98%, they are failing just only because what I'm describing to you, because rather than they put money, time, and effort in sales and marketing, and know that this is going to be the key factor in order for you to make the first million. Even if your product is not good, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert. Even if your product is not good, you will be able to make 1 million if you've done sales and marketing. And if you manage to improve your product, you will have repeating customers. Otherwise, you won't have repeating customers. But you will get to 1 million, even if your product is not good. So why everybody take all the money, time, and effort and energy to make an amazing product that hasn't been in front of anybody? And then after they run out of money and capital and everything, they go, okay, John, help us. How are you going to help them? They already eat all the money in the product.
Right.
They are tight. They're you have your hands tight. And it does happen a lot in business. So what's your message for those entrepreneurs before they get to the point that there is no way back? Because I seen it, Harry, we're looking for funding. And when I'm looking into the business, I say, guys, but what you have done, you have no resources whatsoever. And now you want to penetrate the market with the product that, there is a competition out there or whatever. It doesn't make sense. So what message do you have for the founders out there?
Yeah. So, there's a couple of different things there. And I think we both definitely agree that, sales and marketing is, definitely a huge core foundation. I would say a lot of times when startups actually fail, it's these founders think that, they're just thinking about what they like instead of what their audience actually needs. So they're building products based on their own preferences, not by going out and reverse engineering, what their audience problems are and what people would actually, most importantly, what people would pay to actually solve this. So even, strong ideas fail when, marketing actually speaks in the founder's voice, just instead of the customers. So, a lot of times you have people thinking, oh, well, I would definitely pay for this, but it's like, well, that's awesome. But would thousands of other people do the same? So if you're not clearly solving, a painful and valuable problem in your audience language, then people aren't gonna actually pay. And this also goes into pricing too, is, a lot of business owners, for example, they want to sell extremely expensive products to an audience that is not very wealthy. For example, I saw a guy who was trying to sell a subscription app to college students, but it was $200 a month. And while most entrepreneurs watching this may not think that's a lot, like at least just think back to when you're 18, 19. It's like $200 reoccurring. That's a lot of money. So you
For a
have to
student,
speak.
yes.
Exactly. You have to actually speak to your audience and do that properly, or else no one's going to buy it. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that he's sitting in something powerful. It's just the business model that it doesn't work. Okay, at this price point, something down the line in the operation is getting too expensive for him. That is end up this price. But then, John, the other thing that we find is, you know what? I'm just gonna put 20% for marketing and sales because that's what all the major company does. Well, excuse me, this is what all the major company do once they build a system and they don't depend on the client anymore. Okay. So of course,
Yep.
if you don't if you have, let's say, McDonald's, okay, McDonald's, you don't have the client, okay. They already know how to get the clients. They already know the system, and they have the. I guess okay, they can have a steady 10-20% in order for marketing and sales because at the end of the day, you know the they don't anymore. They know that TV advertising it just will keep the client flow and will increase it, or this technique or this strategy. However, when they started, it was not 20% what they had to put into this because nobody knew them. Nobody know who you are and nobody even know what you're gonna achieve. You actually
Right.
depend on the client. If you don't have a client, you don't have a business. So the dynamic change, John, you have a startup until you reach a point, I don't know, you're selling 1 million, 10 million. I think on that bracket between 1 to 10 million, the company shift, and now you don't depend on the client anymore, meaning you already have a system, a process that you can get your clients and they buy your product. And it's all about training and HR and procedures and systems. That's what is taking place in order to run these large companies, but have dynamic change completely. Okay. So, and I think that people go in business, they read something, okay, Amazon or McDonald's or this company, this is the budget for sales and marketing. So you know what? Well, if they type in ChatGPT, what are the marketing budget and sales for Facebook, Google, and all these big giants?
Right.
It's gonna give them number, and they say, okay, you know what? That's gonna be my budget for my startup. And so
Yeah.
it really worked like this, right? So tell us a little bit more, John, how this dynamic work, because it's completely different ball game when you are there from 0 to 1 million that nobody knows you, and you need to get the product out there. How much money, time, and energy is required versus when you reach to a point that you're selling 1 million, which you have technically product market fit somehow. Okay. I mean, this is an analogy that I'm making. If you're selling 1 million, at least the people are buying your product in certain form. And if you're able to adjust, you will be able to scale and get more market share. So tell us about the dynamic, having a startup versus getting to product market fit, how the sales marketing flow goes so our founders they can have an idea how things actually work.
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, a big thing with startups is a lot of these, they're just trying to stay afloat with cash flow. And, majority of startups just fail because they don't have the money. They just run out of money. So a big thing that I see with a lot of startups that I'm working with is when they're first starting off, they're doing things that are not scalable. So what does that mean? For example, I work with a lot of, AI tech companies to where, their main offer is, it's more of a software play, but in order to get, more cash flow through the doors, they're selling higher ticket items to companies to where it's like, hey, they're coming in and doing more consulting work. Whereas, in the beginning, doing stuff like that for the founder, where they're doing one-on-one consulting work where they can charge maybe $5,000 up front versus their normal software where it's, maybe $200 a month. It's not scalable, but it's getting money through the door to where after 6 months, you can kind of just stop doing
100%.
that.
100%. You bring in some money through the door, and then you have a feedback out of this consultancy, how to
Exactly.
program your thing better. You see, and you don't even know what the market wants. probably probably your product only will sell through consultancy. Yeah. If I
Yeah.
tell you, John, one person came to this podcast kind of a long time ago. I think in the he developed something in the 80s. It was like a mobile phone. Okay. And it's a tech entrepreneur, so yeah, in the 80s. And it was a device that we track the time of the employees working. Okay, so you can track your time of work. And he thought, you know what? I'll sell this to every employee and everybody will buy it because, of
Mhm.
course, everybody want to track the time to see how they're more productive in the job so they don't get fired. That was his initial approach. Okay, no one bought that,
Oh, really?
and then he turns out that the only that was interested in this in his product was actually the CEOs of the companies that
Oh.
they will lease the machines from him for a month,
Mm.
collect all the data, and was the data what they was willing to pay for.
That's
So
interesting.
look how far in the tech space goes what you thought that is gonna sell and you're gonna make money, and finally, all these devices, nobody bought any. He never sold any. The employee didn't want to buy any of these things to track the time. Who cares? You know what I mean? But actually, the company, the big companies, so it was idea. Okay, I don't need to buy it because this. I just need a month
Right.
test. So in my factory, so how much would be if you can lease me 200 of these devices because I have 200 employees. Everybody will use it for a month. Give me the data and give me some report. I'll pay you whatever you want for this. So he ended up actually his product, right, than a direct consumer thing that he thought like was like a mobile phone that everybody will have one. It was
Mhm.
just like a consultancy, and that's his business. I think up to
Yeah.
that's his business. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? So sometimes you don't know when you go in tech about product market fit, and if founder
Right.
doesn't have the flexibility to be adaptable and to pivot the product, and for that you need a strong sales and marketing person next to you that say, look, this is the feedback of the client. Okay. Another one that I hear a lot. You find the first client. No, no, that's this client. This is my product. I'm not gonna change it. And the first client said, "Look, if you do this and this and this, I will buy it. Not too much,
Mhm.
but because you're new into a market. But if you can do this and this also for me, I will pay you something." No, and then the founders, no way. I'll do only this. The other things that you need to pay for something else. I'm like,
Mm.
guys, these guys are paying you to fix your product. Should be grateful.
Yeah.
Uh,
You can't be picky in the beginning. You gotta just make the money. You got bills to pay.
So
You
when
got
you see, John, why, okay, it's true what you said that, it's a huge failing rate in uh, not only in the tech space, but especially in tech, right? Moving making, getting profitable the business. But then we have to understand that it's just a marketing and sales exercise until you get to product market fit. And
Mhm.
marketing and sales exercise is going to take change the product again and again until the client is happy. And
Mhm.
don't charge what you think, even charge what the client is willing to pay to solve this problem. Until you
Right.
don't put that, I even have people that come to this podcast that say, Harry, you know what? Charge them at least $1. So you can say that we're your client, but that feedback is key.
Mhm.
And when you see founders out behaving, okay, you know what? This first client, they need to adapt to what I have because I'm not going to change for anybody because that costs money. Okay. I hear that a
Mhm.
lot. And then when you see also, no, 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 we paying maximum 10 or 10% to whoever bring us the first client. We're not going to pay that much because, this is what sales and marketing people get paid. So when you see these expressions out of a founder, which is actually very common in the tech space, in the founders tech, you're already seeing the clues for failure. It's already giving you the proof that this company is not going to work because the people on charge, they are sending signals that maybe they read on the book or they got in out of the friends or maybe a family member and told them, but I think this podcast could be a very good source. We already over 100 millionaires in the tech space. Everybody's
Mhm.
saying the same thing. Okay. So, and everybody talking, like I said, even the software developers that have
Mhm.
been in this podcast, that they are millionaires in the tech space, they come and they spend the whole podcast speaking about science and marketing. I'm like, guys, you are a code guy, and they the whole day. This is how we find the first client, and this is how we solve this, and then we
Yeah.
iterate like this, and they spend the whole podcast. I'm thinking, this guy is really a software developer because spend the whole podcast talking about it because they realize how important it is. So I'm sorry, John, that I'm taking too long in this, but it's really
Oh, you're all
important
good.
stretch because we've seen companies. We don't want to out there, especially entrepreneurs. We want to
Right.
give them support, but there is a certain dynamic, okay, into an startup that if the founder don't follow this dynamic, it's a recipe for failure. And but then, John, I want to ask you something because somehow, kind of by accident, you beat the sales force in this solar panel business when you were very young. But then after
Mhm.
that failure, I call it failure. You were very young, but anyway, it was a big lesson.
Mhm.
When you came back, I always said entrepreneurs, when we fail, we come back in a different form, in a more sophisticated form. Okay.
Mhm.
When do you realize that, wow, this skill set that I have, okay, I lost 150, because you can say, okay, you know what, I lost 150K and Jones are going to be a plumber and everybody makes a lot of money doing plumbing. So you know what? That's it. I'm not going to do sales anymore. But when do you realize that, wow, this skill set that I have, if
Mhm.
I can apply to any product, I can make anything work. And let me focus. So it's from very early young age, you scale and start to think like a second time founder. Okay. Because
Mhm.
until we don't have the first company and or one company down the line that fail, don't let that lesson that, oh, this sales
Right.
marketing thing, I have to put more attention. This is, let me tell you what happened to me. My first business was in property. Okay. It was very easy. I find one client, the client paid me a lot of a year for years.
Mhm.
So it was on internet, so my very low, and I thought that was normal. I opened a restaurant, I lost 200,000 pounds there in that
Mhm.
restaurant. I understood. I did like I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is because I did it myself. I took this restaurant. The
Right.
first thing I said, the restaurant said, okay, it was Spanish. You might how bad clue I have about branding, marketing, and sales. I called the restaurant Harry's Tapas. If you have a Spanish tapa, you call it Lola or Pepe. You're not gonna call it Harry, right? So even from the name, it was a recipe for disaster. So Harry Spanish Tapas. And then I went there and told my Polish bidder, look, I want a guitar on the ceiling, a Spanish guitar. My bidder said, Harry, you know what it's going to take? You're going to have this place 2 months closed. It's a lot of work. Leave the ceiling like this. We paint it nicely. I said, no, 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 I want a Spanish guitar. This will be the best restaurant. People just going to see it and go inside. So so I kept the restaurant 2 months, a big restaurant, 2 months closed. And we did this guitar, amazing. And I put a lot of money, timer, and the restaurant looks beautiful. First day, guess what happened? I opened the door in a very busy place, Brick Lane in London. No one
Mhm.
come inside. See, we
Wow.
have one client, two clients in the whole day. And this is where I realized that, oh, and now I don't have resources for sales and marketing. And
Right.
we find out after a year and a half that if I take a Spanish omelette and I cut it to small pieces and we put it out there and people try it, that was our marketing. It took 1 year and a half to way too late to find out how to bring the people to the door. And guess what happened? The restaurant, I had to close it. Lost like 200,000 pounds, 2 years of my life. Guess what happened? The person that came after it was Chinese restaurant. So
Mhm.
guess what the Chinese did? They opened the summer guitar and said, you know what? It's gonna be a Chinese restaurant, but let's keep the guitar. Now you go to Brick Lane, my guitar is still there in the Chinese restaurant.
Right.
So the Chinese guy said, no way. Let me keep my money for sales and marketing and
Yeah.
leave this guitar there. Who cares? You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I learned this lesson in the hard way, and still my money is in the walls of, of that place,
Oh,
and I
dude.
cannot even be out. I pay thousands because of these refurbished. Yeah. So that's why, like I said, I'm barely sharing this story because being there, done it, not talking out of
Mhm.
the something that
Yeah.
happened in the book. I learned this by experience. And then, so what thing, John, that when you're working with people or partner with the B2B, okay, people they need to understand what you bring into the table. And in case that they don't know how this process works, there is an education
Mhm.
or you just don't take them because understand your value. Because let me tell you, done it personally myself. Find a first
Mhm.
client or the first client for a tech company is hard. Is something that requires high level of expertise in that space. Okay, if they come and say, well, you know what, we're gonna pay you just commission and we're gonna pay you very little. It doesn't make sense. Someone like with the high skill set that you have put effort in something that's gonna be rewarded so little. And unfortunately,
Right.
highly skilled people and highly skilled people cost money, right? And they haven't that because there is a perception of that is easy to find the first clients, and it's not when nobody knows you, and
Mhm.
you are a
Yeah.
nobody with the with something that you create that you don't know if people want it, and you are out there. So
Mhm.
tell us what are the biggest challenges that you have with those clients that they actually have good product, but they don't understand your value and what do you bring to the table. What you do like a kind of, or have resources, but maybe you can have another solution like owning shares of the company and like that. Tell us how you work or how you try to work with everybody,
Mhm.
please.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll kind of give you without taking a run around. So essentially, how my business first was, it was more like a sales agency. So I was coming in these businesses, building out their whole sales team, managing them, doing all that stuff. And then I just didn't like having marketing just aside. I didn't like, having to rely on someone else to do the marketing. So then I started taking that in house as well. So pretty much same thing. I'm doing everything on rev share and equity deals. But a big thing was people were reaching out to me saying, "Hey, John, we want to work with each other. I think you can provide a lot of value." And it either didn't make sense for me to spend my time working with them. Maybe they weren't farther along in their journey, or they didn't want to give a portion of their equity, which is fair. So I work in two ways. Either work with companies if they're doing over $100,000 a month in revenue, then I'll partner up with them. I build out paid acquisition channels, cold email to their entire sales teams, their whole CRM, and pretty much just marketing and sales alignment. That's for companies that are doing over $100,000 a month, and then we do equity deals with those. For companies that are below, either they're new companies, brand new, or maybe they're just at a low point and they're just getting startup. We do consulting deals. So just depending, I'll kind of take a look back on the curtains, see what their offer is, what their audience is, what they're doing for marketing, and then what they're doing for sales, and then I'll provide some consulting work on there. And then the hope is that the companies that are more in the early stages that I'm doing consulting with, eventually I can help them mature to where I can partner up with them long term and then do those equity plays. So that's essentially how I do things over here.
John, so want to, I in love with this conversation, want to find out more about you, how people can find you, how this process work.
Yeah, so I post on YouTube pretty frequently. So it's at John P Mag. So it's JOHN, the letter P like Patrick, and then Mag. So MAG. And then on Instagram, it's the same handle at John P Mag. So reach out to me there. We can have a conversation, kind of see if consulting or equity would be a good play for you.
Thank you so much, John. That has been fantastic. And for all of you following the podcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneurs like John break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.